Hello, my viewers. Welcome back. This is Ethics Institute of East Africa. This is an organization that deals with matters corruption and corruption eradication. We have been discussing strategies to corruption eradication, and we are now discussing one of the strategies, value-based approach to corruption eradication, and we are on the issue of organizational change, organizational culture change, and how it can be used to reduce corruption. I have already introduced what organizational culture is all about, and I want to get a little bit deeper into how changing an organization culture can be able to reduce corruption depending on what culture the organization is. I have indicated to you that some institutions have very weird culture practices within their employees. Some of them have institutionalized corruption to the extent that if you go into that if you are a new employee into that organization, you become the endangered species because everybody there sees corruption to be very much usual. The CEO has an appetite for bribery, an appetite to bribes to the extent that anybody who is working with him within his office, starting from the secretary to the personal assistant to the security, to everybody who is working around him, sees bribery to be very normal. If that happens, then you are sure that even the culture of that organization as a whole is actually a culture of corruption. And in order to change that organization, there is a lot of concerted efforts that need to be put in place in order to ensure that organization is actually on the right footing. The culture that brings in, that causes corruption, will be seen within the employees on how they view and how they behave among themselves. Now, a more passive or indirect means of preventing corruption is to have that organization focus on creating a very high-level cultural change within the organization. The only difference between the tone at the top is that tone at the top is about the lifestyle of the leader. What is it that the leader espouses? What is it that the leader looks at? If he's one who is into ethical leadership, then we can employ the tone at the top. We can talk about the tone at the top. With organizational culture change, we are talking about a holistic approach to anti-corruption. An organization that promotes values associated with anti-corruption will have to plan to instill values among its employees and ensure that the employees speak about anti-corruption, feels about anti-corruption, and ensures that even the stakeholders who are associating themselves, who are interacting with the members of staff in that organization, also believes in corruption eradication. However, where the culture is one that is of corruption and employees are into corruption, the stakeholders or the customers or clients will always want to shift their thinking into what the employees are also believing in. And that is very dangerous to the business of that organization. An important distinction, I've just said, with the tone at the top, is that this particular approach, which is the organizational culture change, focuses on this organizational culture change focuses on holistic reputational and cultural change, whereas the tone at the top will only focus solely on the importance of the ethical leadership. The importance of improving or changing organizational culture is advanced by many anti-corruption bodies. UNICAC, for example, under Article 8.1 says that in order to fight corruption, all signatory countries to UNICAC are supposed to promote values such as integrity, honesty, transparency among the member institutions. We too have the EOCD, for example, that recommends that creating an organizational culture with values such as transparency, meritocracy, professionalism, fairness, and accountability is very important. And such culture must be able to denounce issues of nepotism, favorism, and abuse of power. Do we have such a culture in our institutions? A culture that denounces nepotism, a culture that denounces bribery, a culture that denounces favorism, a culture that denounces abuse of power. in our institutions, within our boundaries, within our borders, within the East African region? Do we have such a culture? If I look around, I am seeing a culture that is full of nepotism. You want to employ your own people. You want to employ your own people from your own ethnic group. You want to employ your friends. You want to give businesses to your friends. You want to give businesses to your relatives. All right. You want to favor certain people within your own circle. All right. When you are given opportunity to be in power, you want to make sure that you abuse it to your maximum. And then when you are being investigated by anti-corruption bodies, you quickly go into your circles, into your ethnic group, and start saying my tribe is being, my region is being humiliated, my region is being attacked by the anti-corruption bodies, and that is the major problem. We need to move away from this in order to change our institutions to be corruption free. Are we able to ensure that we practice transparency, we practice meritocracy, we practice professionalism, fairness, and accountability in our professions, in our organizations, in our businesses? I leave that. We'll be responding to that shortly when we come back. We are discussing organizational change, organizational culture change, and how it can be used to reduce corruption. Welcome back later.